what that is they're actually giving very young girls double mastectomies. They want to castrate these young boys. That's wrong. 10, 12, 13-year-old kids, based on gender dysphoria, 80% of it resolves anyways by the time they get older. I think these doctors need to get sued for what's happening. I'm sorry.
The references to nuclear panic overshadow the trans messaging. Consider omitting.
There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered.
The first nuclear bomb was built at Los Alamos in 1945, ushering in an international security regime in which the threat of total annihilation became seemingly new reality. In order to manage this threat, the birth of the atomic age invested had in order to fight domestic sphere with new ideological meaning. The atomic blasts were mastered by the impact on large-sized house and led to the nuclear family's role as a bulwark against the communist threat. White domesticity helped the public acclimate to atomic tech. Bikini was famously named after the atoll, the Marshall Islands, where the AAC tested its mightiest weapons. Attractive women were dubbed bombshells, a name that implied their beauty could be devastating. Cold War culture equated the protection of sanctified white domestic sphere with the protection of the nation to the whole. The heteronormative nuclear family sat at the heart of patriotic anti-communist white life. Enter Christine Jorgensen, a former soldier from the Bronx. Christine entered a pharmacy in 1949, asking for estradiol, telling the clerk it was for a research project. After going to Denmark for sex reassignment surgery, her transition quickly made international headlines. People today reporting in 1954 after other transsexual stories had broken in the media that next to the recurrent hydrogen bomb headlines, reports of sex changes are becoming the most consistently startling world news. Jorgensen's hypervisibility meant the spectacle of transsexuality had mushroomed into public consciousness during the early days of the Cold War with all the force of blistering hot wind burning across the Trinity test site. This new nuclear force, in tandem with the bomb, was weaponized to produce a political economy oriented around the consolidation of the nuclear family by upholding the sanctity of white womanhood. Skidmore, 2011, trans women, primarily Jorgensen, the most represented white womanhood, gained the most visibility. White trans women were able to articulate transsexuality as acceptable subject position and through an embodiment of the norms of white womanhood, domesticity, respectability, and heterosexuality. Marcia Olmos, Romero, Laverne, Peterson, and Delisa Newman were less intelligible, authentic, read white women there for appearance subjects to ridicule, racialized gender ideology, regularly wanted to appear in the public sphere as legitimate, neurostructural, allow the figure of transsexual to have coherence, popular culture, political radical, upheld the nuclear family as the American ideal, social formation, promising defense against communist, visual formation, stability of the nuclear family, under felony discrimination, the U.S. Senate held hearings on homosexuals, surrounding the purge of thousands of lesbians and gay men, increased police surveillance as a blonde, heterosexual, domestically oriented woman. Jorgensen's appearance assured continued dominance of gender roles, reference to white heteropatriarchy. Jorgensen's intelligibility rested on her participation in a nuclear family union. Jorgensen's appeared in several photographs, one of which she was cooking in the kitchen with her mother. Produced Jorgensen's body through notions of middle class respectability. Jorgensen's pretty, personable, and pleasant by any standard. Jorgensen's femininity is enabled by her body, but respectability, a vital aspect of womanhood because of its connection to civility to be acceptable. Jorgensen's body had to be intelligent and heterosexual. With Jorgensen distanced from homosexuality across sourcing after certain sexuality reassigned her sex. She not dressed as a woman until the sex on her passport had officially been changed. Jorgensen placed her body in terms of proper U.S. citizenship and narrated her sex reassignment through her allegiance to disciplining apparatus of the U.S. Jorgensen articulate conservative sexual mores to show readers her public presence not motivated by political agenda, taking challenge to sanctity of heteropatriarchy. Jorgensen was able to prevent the press from defining her act because she had access to the institutional power of white womanhood. The resolution of all debate nuclear forces cannot be detached from the nuclear family logic that shaped the contours of subjectivity. Jorgensen's story was spectacular because domesticity is fundamental to the nuclear family union. Yet transsexual technologies have the capacity to threaten the foundations of the U.S. empire. In order to manage the threat, the U.S. had to create the image of an acceptable transsexual in relation to racialized systems of hierarchy. Just as nuclear tech split the atom to destroy matter, transsexual tech destroyed the stability of sex to invent new epistemological frameworks for production of embodiment. Jorgensen's spectacular array can be read as the map of the transsexual phenomenon of intelligence practices that recently the relationship between gender subjects and sex flesh, remapping the global spectrum of transsexuality as a white masculine phenomenon. Her presence racializes others will rendering opaque her own racialization. Jorgensen focuses a white screen on which is protected. All this fantasized the metropole, wealth, gender mobility, liberation, self-fashion, situated, born to specialized racial hierarchy, the whiteness as a colonist, imperative point of origin to the figure Christine Jorgensen, the outlines we knew, the U.S. polity of the post-colonial empire, living bodies, identities, stereotypes, and populations becomes visible. Any discussion of nuclear production that fails to theorize the intimate connections between nuclearism and the family will reproduce the logistics of empire and anti-trans violence that mark transit as the threat to creation's countless anti-trans bills are introduced in past debate to place a narrative coherent centered around apocalypticism and supposedly liberal policy discussions to lock in ongoing logics of elimination. Trans people are forced to erase our histories, archives, and stories for safety or transitional. The scientific study of transit is conducted by cis people. Transit only gains coherence within the prescriptive debate if it is localizable, measurable, and observable like the atom. In response, this debate is about alternative world-making tactics, what we do here and now to make life livable. The 1AC's program of trans existentialism holds together a dual set of commitments towards trans archival practice liberation, and networks of care. The challenge we have of spectacular narratives like Jorgensen's. The precarity of nuclear forces demands a constellation of shared collectivity. To one such society structure transactions object of medical discourse that development of trans archives obscured by dominant within society proves alternative programming the aim of the full suspension of gender categories actual trans existentialism and certain subjects are so deeply ingrained in systematic procedures require for their complete suspension of the trans phenomenologist practices gender attitude cultivated dispossession or organized society based on mandatory gender identification through an intimate return to trans experience self-text seem completely anarchic for the classic gender cisgender perspective and uneasy blending of poetry lit theater and scenes archival consideration transforming the means by which these stories or narratives are distorted by cisgender frame. What is our history? Who are dead? How do we come to misunderstand and misrecognize one another for poser gender stories structures trans people to relatively coherent set of events on happy childhood collection of one's trans queerness epiphany confession moment at the beginning transition and closure. What is at stake is the suspension of cisgender attitudes produces trans archive that remains incomplete. This contemporary notion of genders and outcomes of epistemological crisis concerning sex characteristics persons and adapt a cisgender orientation towards trans identity by boosting unity of trans experience and shared narrative coherence. Trans existential proposed that trans people have an existential rather than identity unity. What trans people share is the unity of situation functions around responsibility rather than resemblance between properties. Gender dysphoria describes the alienation of freedom experienced by trans subjects in cisgender society. Trans existential is the unity of trans people essentially precarious and the result of a shared collective resolution when we choose to transition that details of revolutionary political consequence requires upturning cisgender society. The neutralization of cisgender society must extend beyond the arbitrary of the phenomenologist into material neutralization of cisgender society, which is to say, into the streets. Trans existentialism demands a restriction of the nuclear forces which constitute violence of the nuclear family. This restriction emerges from the impossibility of trans society supplanting the nuclear family and nuclear state with a fugitive collectivity. For those who have been disappeared, for Talisa, Marta, Laverne, for those who haven't been invited, for Letitia, trans existentialism is the company of tea times, bodies beginning to creep back through the house. These are the sites of trans belonging, production lines as chopping boards, mutual aid shared out on plates, the quiet nights of caffeine, red wine, conversation, the afternoons of group meets, collations of what becomes community. These moments of autumn turning out to winter with the demise of daylight, the rapid switch into the wane of early afternoons, the air electric to reap content, its failure, the practice of youthful irresponsibility, the impractice of sharing domestic spaces with strangers. She moved her hands to maintain the connection of the wood directly into the presence of memory again. Might all wooden tables link through the form of the feminist diaspora, the practices of collective care, mutual aid, the communal form. She thought of Sarah Ahmed, of Kitchen Table Press, of Jim Heridowarn's book, of how this constellation could span backwards through the decades, forwards to future formations. It's impossible though with all the touristification, but this is how it goes. We get together around a table, a kitchen table. We talk while chopping vegetables. Remember when that random person stopped to ask us about the zine, the new zine? All of that coheres around a communal table, dinner bowls, the lift and carry of voices, herbal array, the play of tunes run memories backwards, the bringing together of queer and trans optimism, a possible politics of new socialities, a communal form. Affects cohere us together. Solidarity, substantiating a context institutional or predictable, obscure or precarious, a flow of white feminists through exterior, how the fabrics and thoughts of the body materialize, what categories of being, what labeling denying humanity are necessary for solidarity to emerge. Solidarity, a process of sublimation. With the development of capitalist social relations, the labor market and the possibilities of queer social forms, percepts and sounds and memories having a profound physical effect on the body. But is this enough? What forms of social, cultural, and material organization might be assembled even within the capitalist day world so that we could feed, enrich, maintain each other, break down isolation? Collectivity teaches and motivates us to orient our work, our attentions, and care towards each other. But why the need to bring ourselves together like this, to feel a sense of belonging, sure, in a context where difference and precarity might have denied a sense of home, to pool the recompense of our labor sold for wages, to show that we are more than our value, to build something for a community, to demonstrate the power of working together materially, to know that we are not alone. Precarious queer and trans people are used to watching our homes disappear with the creep of capital bulldoze or render to us a spectacular image, but the anxiety and the power play and the meetings, small moments of organization and shared work built around the table, the relationships. The private dwelling was a home made in smaller ways. Within it, reproductive labor established itself according to needs, supply, gender, time, race, dwell, longing to the home abandoned. Fragments of love pale, stretching through the curtains, damp with cries, melodrama, modernity, and all of where we are pushed by the call, demand, and dispersal of body. I don't know how we don't want to do cross-sex, but
I think if we just turn volume off, both of us, but keep mics on, then there shouldn't be an echo. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, can you hear me, Travis?
Is there an echo?
Any echo? It's fine. Is it fine? Wait, okay. Wait, I turned my volume off. Okay, we're good? Okay, sweet. Good for cross?
I'm good for cross.
Okay, sweet. You typed the card from pages 45 to 48, quote, trans existentialism demands a restriction of the nuclear forces which constitute the violence of the nuclear family. First question, what does the restriction look like?
Well, we think that trans existentialism is the thing that restricts the forces. The one who sees program of trans existentialism looks like the commitment to trans archival practice, liberation, networks of care.
Okay, can you give like specific examples of what those networks of care will look like?
Well, yeah, I think, so each of those things probably has a different set of examples. I think that trans-archival practice is a method of navigating the archive of debate that allows the kind of textures of trans-argumentation that were always there to emerge. Liberatory practices might look like things like Miss Major's needle sharing program, like New World Disorder, that takes up public space and uses it to establish care for trans communities.
Okay.
Right? Like,
and then networks of care is the last one, right?
yeah, networks of care are the things that we create around the kitchen table when we come together in spaces like debate, which is what the Holocaust describes.
Okay, so a lot of these seem like things that could happen outside of debate. Which of these are? Which of these are?
I guess lots of things in debate could happen outside of debate, right? So
Right.
could, like the US of restricting things, but like,
Right, sure.
yeah, like I don't understand why that's a reason why the app is bad. I think that's a reason why the app is important because it can teach us how to engage in those things.
Okay, that makes sense. Which of these? Can you provide like a specific example of like?
Girl, I just
say,
did.
I'm asking like needle sharing. You referenced needle sharing. Like what kind of needle sharing can happen in debate?
Well, okay. So I think a great example is the kind of trans socialities that we build in debate have like quite literally assisted people. Like, girl, I know like a handful of trans people who have shared resources in debate for like DIY HRT.
Okay,
Like,
why does
I know,
voting
but
AF? Why does voting AF enable that?
Well, obviously the judge votes out if trans existentialism is a good idea, right? The
Right,
debate's
because they
always
said
about
that the
that,
bracketing
right?
of the cisgender attitude out of politics is necessary to move towards that collectivity.
Mhm.
That was the whole evidence.
Mhm.
Oh wait, sorry. I maybe misunderstanding. Like what about you getting the ballot enables, networks of care, trans archival practices, etc. to flourish?
Well, I guess I think we've made a claim that the ballot should be given to the team.
Right,
that
I'm
represents the
confused about
ballot.
the question because I don't think the argument we made is that the ballot causes communities of care per se,
Sure.
but rather that we should have debates over what strategies are best for trans people and that we win the round if the method of the app is good.
And
Granted,
then
we
the
made
role of
arguments
the
about why
neg-
the method of the app is good for
Right.
debate, but
The role of the neg is
We've said trans existentialism is good. You should find a competitive method or otherwise engage our method. Like,
okay.
what do you
Competitive
mean?
method meaning
Well,
something that's mutually exclusive with the 1AC.
well, for sure.
Okay,
Like,
that
like negate
Okay.
the app however the fuck
That
you
makes
want to
sense.
negate that app.
You
I don't
say-
know, there's lots of ways to
you say you
negate
demand a
that.
restriction of nuclear forces. What are the nuclear forces?
The first line of cross-text that you read answered your question. The nuclear family is a nuclear force.
The nuclear family is a nuclear
Yeah.
force. Okay, got it. Cool.
Okay.
how many off is it?
It is 5 off of these. Okay, the same
Does someone want to turn volume back on just in case there's issues or something?
Yeah, mine's on.
Okay.
Travis,
Can I
you
ask a
sit.
silly question?
Oh yeah, of course.
Is there an email chain that I'm on?
I believe you should be. I think the NDT auto sets one up.
Did he not end up on that? That's fucked up.
Although it does look like you're not on it.
Yeah, I don't see him on it. I can
Love NDT.
Here, I can just resend the one.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably
Yeah.
resend the 1AC too because it'd be useful.
Do you want me to just reattach it into this email?
That would be
That'd be
beautiful,
awesome.
thank you.
Sorry, I don't have it from phone speeches. Bite me in the ass again.
It's not NDT's fault.
It is that.
I don't understand how the system works. I'm not a given person.
Okay, I just resent it with the 1AC and the 1MC attached. So let me make Zoom small so I can see the corner. Is everyone here good? Cool. And then Travis, we just give me a thumbs up when you're good too.
I mean, I don't have this email chain, but I mean, I'm good.
Oh no. Let me know when you get it.
I just got it.
Oh, the second one? Yeah, just because it had all those stocks, it might have taken longer to send.
He might check his spam if it's not there yet.
I'm getting words that might have gone to spam.
Oh, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Sorry.
No worries. Okay, awesome. The next should not have to resort on topical apps. United States means the federal government, not private entities. You could attend. We consult dictionary definition taking its ordinary common meaning. The U.S. means nation through federal government. The dictionary consistent with this. Given our term only, the term U.S. does not include private entities. To restrict, confine to the limits of action. Random House 23. To confine with the limits of action of choice. It is possessive meaning belonging to. Dictionary.com 22. It is possessive meaning belonging to. Nuclear forces refers to delivery mechanisms of nuclear warheads and the warheads themselves. Larson 12. Nuclear forces encompasses means of delivering warheads and warheads themselves is a combination that provides military capability. Disarming requires the entire arsenal of warheads and delivery vehicles to be dismantled. Eggplant 22. What if nuclear disarmament cases would be instances of nuclear renunciation? Question is, what would it take for nuclear powers to disarm nuclear disarmament while complete relinquishment of inertial defensible dismantlement of all or to be delivery action of a nuclear state, which you take within a recognition of renewal nuclear NDT. Our interpretation preserves any semblance of a predictable, limited, and contestable topic, but introduces the best debates for two reasons. One, procedural fairness. It's intrinsic and irrefutable good as provided by collective buy-in. Both sides expect not only consistency in speech times and speech order, but most importantly equitable and unbiased judging upheld by principles that have collectively agreed are necessary because they are fair, like presuming the dropped arguments are true, and thus group shifts flowing is good. Two is clash, back and forth, reputation of arguments built into controversial resolutions, crucial skills over time, engagement on topic on both sides, come out prepared for trained to debaters think critically and to deeply about their arguments and forces to challenge their preconceived beliefs with evidence-based contestation. Clash is content agnostic, impacted and acts iteratively, so the material of single effects and specific topics is zero. Relevance to whatever clash is good. Next off. The act embodies a political mood of austerity that responsibilizes individuals and resilient to confront the social imposition of neoliberalism, which siphons material distribution in the face of calculated violence. Part 16. Austerity kills inequality tied to embodied suffering, disease, vulnerability, level of individuals are routinely told that their health is their own responsibility, that will only endure if they invest with individuals in entrepreneurial, personalized neoliberalism, the health challenges repeatedly recorded as personal management problems, even if they embody neoliberal socio-economic developments. The personal behavior to be neoliberal government mentality, which individuals become competitive, age invest in human capital, entrepreneurs are rematching their meaning of their lives, individual calculating consumers, neoliberalism keeps evolving, it's adaptive and protein to inspire both the macro and micro practices, personalized responsibilization through background models, embodying the risk of self-management, conditionalization, and responsibilization shape, research on micro neoliberal innovation, personalized health, which becomes being advanced as answers to destructive legacy macro neoliberal structural adjustment, neoliberal assumptions, shape corrective countermeasures to structural lines to address the weight embodiment of of health have been structured by neoliberal conditionalization. Specifically, the presentation of their scholarship via a zine defends collective struggle via interrelation through communicability of capitalism. You should also be skeptical of the history of white supremacy within queer white zine culture and not tying it to political actions. Your assault, Reynolds 19. Zine starts attempt to resist normative sexuality under communicative to capitalism. Zines cannot reach and address the potentials because they district like capitalist ideology. They circulate DIY language in relation to communicative capitalism, political beliefs through media. Rather collective action, zines are white supremacist capitalist patriarchy within the lineage of white feminism, among queer white feminism, zines are racism, and the rhetoric or wokeness, expansion, digital economy, DIY culture, production, integrates. Zines are consumer activities, this deliberate outcome, neoliberal model, and exports and authenticity, individuals and places, collective action. Zines are discourse, isolated individual self-publisher as a future of capitalism, queer. Zines are attempted to bypass class and racism by white feminism, middle class values, interpretive zine publishing. There's no divorcing white team system ideas integrated white Western culture. The medium remains locked in hegemonic forces when you do zines are stepping into institutions into the subverted racism, discourse, and awareness regarding race might overshadow relationalized logic. Zines are savvy about hegemonic thinking, however, practice requires political action. Voting AF relies on immaterial labor that operates as a cornerstone of communicative capitalism and trades off with political mobilization that crushes the AF's revolutionary potential. Reynolds 19. Unpaid creative labor is constant capitalism, ideology through material output, despite counter-hegemonic abolitions, users oriented religious system of oppression, users represent mobilized political movements, also representation of political users, critique whiteness, yet unclear about how they integrate people color into their content for queer white users, representation of your more ambition than the reality, and here to dominate, taking aesthetic logics, relying massively distributed software, exploitation community, a little less mainstream social media, reworking capitalist content, circulate wide then closed networks, limiting potential catalyzing political engagement for users, accessibility, synonymous for us by as with an echo chamber, accessibility becomes a vernacular discourse, limited reach characteristics of DIY politics and capitalism, users don't identify who belong to only work to resist mainstream, so solidarity centered around social support, non-political actions, making coping personal seem to be ideological. That intervenes with the worst instantations of capitalist exploitation, which accelerates war, violence, and environmental destruction. Robinson 14. The ordinance of global crisis are found over overcommunication, contradiction, same power crisis in one place that represents crisis from the system. Like Kennedy, that involves all demolition, constitution, and impending collapse of centralized agriculture, threatening the ability to survive the system. Is fracturing ecological limits of reproduction, magnitude of violence is unprecedented. Computerized wars, drones, surveillance, population, native and protective economy, subjugation, control, destruction, proliferation, industrial complexes, omnipresent policing, military certification, the spread of WD, ultra-right is ensuring masculinization, homophobia, racism, racial mobilization, 21st century fashion normalizes and glamorifies war and social violence. The alternative is pragmatic demands upon the state toward anti-capitalism. Their strategy seems political. Harvey 15. The problem is refusal to see the state as partner for radical change race by refusing revolution and Spain allowed the state to smash resistance. The left is not going to answer the question how we build infrastructure. We need organizations, data environments are, and more the CDC. How to respond to activities? You can't do it yourself. We can't confront warming through decentralized confrontations. Montreal, some deletion of OSA needed organization. And left doesn't make the next ups and left is to be pragmatic. Narrow demands open up space for revolutionary outcomes, even compromise rollback austerity, more space where organizing can take place. There has to be organized intent to politically change the system. Very clear project problematic with movements where there's no culture project. The dangerous you just help people cope there and be no politics. Next stop. Nuclear weapons strengthen deterrence, preventing nuclear global civil war. Alternatives, international anarchy, are untenable and far more violent. Love Word 19. The desire to survive is common to all states, constantly exposed to risk. These uncertainty makes it impossible to chase from the state of friend return to enemy. If we are powerful knowledge, survival will lose its value. Life is incalculable formula. Ethics cannot be static. It depends on openness to the future. Hospitality cannot be pure conformity to state idea. Ethic is tied to uncertainty, which opens up fits with the neo-realism. It does not close down by informing states how they should act or how they ought to be friends rather than enemies. Friendship is possible only if open to deception. It's not solid that friendship over enemy is better. A system that eradicates violence would be in a world civil war. The constant possibility of warming states will be always rare. That limits manipulation, modern demands, and severs is a sin for settlement of disputes. Any attempt to challenge neo-realism must do so by replacing one structure's rival. There can be no guarantees the new attempt will not result in even more violence. A fascist discourse far more violent than it will emerge. The absence of a common goal makes ethical negotiation possible. A universal ethical idea that embraces everyone will everywhere while retaining the system is problematic. The considered deterrence was to actively determine the threat only if war remains a constant possibility. War creates possibility. The war constitutes the conditions of peace. Next off. Nuclear explosives are not weapons because they have no purpose in achieving the goals of war. Accepting this language crushes opposition by seeing the terms of debates of nuclear is Howler 3. When is a weapon not a weapon? There are two dimensions, instrumentality and AG. On the AG side, AG is wielding action as gained. A weapon does not adhere to the thing itself, rather it's the use. It's the weapon meets the six criteria. The last history does not substantiate credibility. No conflicts with the purpose of war have been served by the dropping nuclear things, but the has not provided power. Nuclear things provided impotent non-weapons. Only you can speak about consequences, but it's not war to slaughter. Yet abolition of million based on its argument, accepting that such things called weapons are terms with valid meanings. Repeating abolition in distress those cannot be considered a weapon. Vote negative to reject the frame of nuclear weapons. We can defend the rest of the app strategy, negate only certain parts, only conditional tests, eliminate engagement, incentivize narrow testing of their specific claims. Requirements to disprove the entire app or section about turns the lap, nuance and debate in political utility. Debating key terms of nuclear politics must be prior to determining the desirability of their advocacy. That was the stuff above. Next up. The one IC's value stands on its own. Responding to its judgment with the ballot is a hollow validation that siphons off political energy and draws them into an oppressive gaze of the academy, but negative to decline affirmation. Phillips 99. Concern centers around the name world, the critic position, communities object investigation. Critics as active agent of change, but discourse becomes instrumental. They suggested all communities need academic critic contradicts disruptive nature. Ono failed to offer an adequate argument for taking speaking to the streets and studying in the classroom. Junior is less of a protest and an object for now so in the academy without addressing what their critics should be standing in the first place. We are already believe members are prepared to be bound to the arena of surveillance. Perhaps the representation will withstand legitimacy. Nonetheless, effect is destructive enough energy into academic record. We destroy cathexis. Recognition takes place of material opportunities. Will legitimation create any material changes in the condition? The critic is focusing on the hidden text and rendering comprehensible, turning covert discourse into object analysis for subjecting the gaze of dominant and power relations of the academy case. 1. Debate over nuclear policy is necessary for nuance. Connolly, Hewitt. 18. Policy discussion left public space. Nuclear policy not easily accessible. Education critical. No time war, time noise. Cold War. Generating lots of mind effects into federal affecting and raising public awareness. In order nuclear weapons and unsustainable public must be aware of public policies officials have chosen by awareness and strategically to issue exposure to increase accessibility for background information. Students can engage in feel comfortable looking deeper into the headlines. Students wonder why we didn't just nuke North Korea. Counter that we have a shield. Next generation constantly being bombarded by news. Young Americans always completely unaware of the choice. They are tactically consenting. Lawmakers are little accountability for spending. Many students believe everyone has nuclear weapons. Shares headlines can mislead the public. Wonder comes students with information to get to these issues. Nuclear policy affects everyone. Education will provide students with the tools they need to make informed decisions. While fewer than 1% students will knew which countries had global nuclear weapons knowledge gap between public and politics. 2 by 2 refusal to critique to engage the state promises an inaccessible movement that's doomed to failure. Donald 15. State phobia is subscribing to neoliberal civil society. Even the state is known to perpetuate heteronormative ideology. The state convention state aside rejects to fight public record with regard to sexual politics. It is dangerous to describe them for policy. Implication state phobic position does not believe the state is one to be aware of the danger of police with the state. And if the state ignores those, do not affect the transnational counter public spheres. Decolonization cannot be achieved merely through shaming. It's better to enable vulnerable groups to access the state instead of for or against the population. The question is how to reconfigure the state and pursue down state phobic through politics that neither rationalize the biopolitical state nor make career bodies governable. Strategic use of the law in New York and San Francisco have made life meaningfully better for trans people. Circa 13. Efforts such as shelter reformer must pronounce impacting the life of trans individuals, inclusive trans health coverage, and tremendous success advocates claiming critics will notice benefits of incremental sector of universal healthcare, available ongoing case station, be responsible for providing care. Every victory pushes toward inclusion of healthcare. Trans coverage will be included. Homeless shelter access of trans people. As the campaign of 6 from getting DHS to written policy, healthcare meaningful change occur through collaborative politics, aligned with the universal healthcare collaborative practice works for trans people. The courts have been narrowed, naming sexual autonomy one of the most prominent areas necessary to change how legal community view and teach the law. State engagement is key and has been successful for LGBTQ movements in the past in order to influence legislators. 17. Networks like the LGBT Equality Caucus and the Inter-Organizational increase the ability of the LGBT movement to have real and profound impact on LGBT-related legislation. The LGBT Equality Caucus is an example of how the LGBT movement has situated itself in the political institutions. This network is able to bring together collective forces and support the campaigns openly LGBT candidates, overcome barriers to LGBT candidates, influencing incumbent presidents, strengthens their ability to access political space. The Equality Caucus encourage other people to join the LGBT movement in Congress. The social movements need to get to political apparatus of the state.
Alright, can I be heard? Sorry, I can't.
That was thumbs up.
Okay, awesome. You good? Perfect. Weapons pick. Where does the YC say nuclear weapons?
In a footnote, I believe. Shannon, you have the quote actually pulled out.
Footnotes are sufficient.
Well, it was read out loud to clarify.
But wait.
It was just at the bottom of the page. I think it was 14.
I kind of don't think that's true. I kind of don't.
It is, quote, AEC tested its mightiest weapon. and then
Oh.
the bomb was weaponized to produce a political economy oriented.
So okay, so saying nuclear weapons is sufficient to like overturn, like to cause all these impacts.
I'm confused. We've read a pick out of language. We think that
Okay,
language is
so-
bad for the impacts.
So that language is bad. Why? What?
The card evidence, it says, the card says two things. One, it obscures actual violence comes from the actual production of those weapons, i.e. The atomic bomb is not a weapon in of itself, but the actual
Okay,
production
for sure,
of it.
for sure. I guess I'm confused because you said it like several times during the speech. I guess I'm confused.
Yeah, roll of the negatives negate all aspects of what
Okay,
I see.
so
Oh, but it's about language.
What do you mean?
But you're
but
supposed
you
to
said
negate
it's about
the
language.
We go into conditional
just-
positions if we go for
So
it.
so language is conditional. I guess I don't know that that's all right.
We
That's
think the
I
negative
don't know that that's
positions
like a
are?
super. Okay.
I don't really understand the concept of
The
the question.
zines link seems like an argument that the app gets co-opted. Is that accurate?
We think that is one of the two
Okay.
translation
How do we
arguments.
avoid getting co-opted?
Not using zines.
So
We
zines
think
are the only thing
state-
that has ever gotten co-opted.
No, we think
Oh,
that
okay.
state-based action is good. and
State-based
keeping
action could never
co-opted
get
by the
co-opted.
state.
Sorry, state-based action could never get co-opted.
We think that the alternative is not, because there's
Wait,
pragmatic demands upon the
wait.
state.
So your claim is that like state-based reforms have never kind of been like
I don't think this is a
contorted
claim
back
we
into
have to
something
win,
that-
considering
Wait,
voting
it is
negative.
though. It actually
Why?
is because the link is about co-option and the overwhelming
It is one
forces
of the
the
impacts
status
to the
quo.
link we think is co-option. Otherwise, we think if
Oh, the
investing in
impact is
zines,
co-option. The internal link is a co-option. The impact is co-option.
we think that is one of the two turns case arguments we will make in the
Okay,
webinar.
sure. Okay, how does the app make this resistance that you're engaging in impossible?
Yeah, investing in zines creates two forms of
Zines?
neoliberal violence. First, it recreates things like
Uh-huh.
using software and requiring an openness of them versus us versus
What?
who has access to create
Wait,
these
wait,
zines
wait.
production
Why
in the
does
first
that
place.
why does that make capitalism inevitable though? Because I kind of think communists kind of like open source shit, low key. Like communists.
So two things: zines and formulation of magazines is not the same as open source.
Wait,
Why do you
wait,
think
sorry.
that's the same thing?
Zines and magazines.
Also, I don't understand why this is relevant to the link, which is pretty specific to the one that says use of zines. And
Okay.
the second one is that obscures white racial capitalism. Traditionally,
Okay. You'll defend a theory. You'll defend a theory of racial capitalism. Okay.
we think that's true.
Okay, for sure.
As per
The
the
deterrence side seems like kind of a naive observation. I mean, it seems like uniqueness claim. What is the kind of link and impact here though?
Yeah, if the 1NC actually defends a restriction of nuclear weapons, then it's set out these links.
Wait, you just said nuclear weapons. Hang on. You just said if the 1AC defends a restriction nuclear weapons.
The 1NC
Because,
defends
alright,
a restriction
well,
of nuclear weapons.
Okay, for sure. Alright, so that
It's
is
set links because it's the link is
Okay.
a restriction of nuclear
But
weapons.
like, I'm sorry. What's the link and impact though?
The impact is nuclear.
No, what's the link?
The link is that if the 1AC defends a restriction of
But
nuclear
like,
weapons,
alright,
then
that's
it's
fine.
set
The
links.
case, the first part says abandonment of duck and cover bad. Are you gonna
Which one does?
practicing duck and cover drills in school was compromised by accidental threat, effective at
Oh,
raising public
we think
awareness.
that notice
Okay.
acknowledgement of nuclear war and the public is good.
Yeah.
This creates new impetus for nuclear reduction.
Duck and cover. Okay.
Can I
Not
have you?
notice.
Yes.
No prep, the 2AC is already sent. Put away. Oh, sorry. Can I get the stand?
Yes.
Just so everybody is cool, I got the speech and stuff, so thank you for using the right email and all the stuff, y'all are awesome. Thank you for that.
Yes, of course.
And I'm good whenever everybody else is ready, so.
Okay.
So don't think I run to the bathroom really quick.
Yeah. Okay. Harvard's running to the bathroom, so return it.
Damn it, door.
Yeah, it didn't close earlier.
Okay.
I ate a chip earlier. I can feel
More water.
it. I know.
too. Sorry.
You know, you're
What is the order?
Yeah.
So the order's going to be case, the ballot pick, the deterrence disad, the weapons pick, the cap K, and then framework.
I'm sorry, could you just give it to me one more time?
Yeah. Case, ballot pick, deterrence, weapons pick, cap K, framework. Everyone has that? Okay, Travis, can I just get one more thumbs up? Make sure you're good.
Yeah, I'm having fat fingers moving tabs around, so I just need a quick second.
You're totally good.
Okay, so 1AC deterrence, ballot pick, weapons pick, cap T.
The ballot pick is before deterrence.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, then I am usually whenever everybody else is.
Okay, perfect. If there's audio issues, just verbally interrupt me because my Zoom will be minimized, so perfect. And then everyone in here is good, right? We are turning Harvard's limit setting on politics to the resolution of celebrating violence against trans people via the dominance of the nuclear family is co-constituted with the violence of nuclear weapons. Jorgensen's hypervisibility demonstrates the creation of ideal citizens along the backdrop of anti-communist propaganda proves our impact arguments of domesticity and spectacularity that implicate the negatives, ability to access fairness and means the advocacy now they cannot win the debate without answering to the white domesticities implicated in nation-building projects and the necessity the eradication of EV populations. The solves three ways. There's no presumption ballot. A is trans archival practice. The one is he's telling of Jorgensen's narrative and the seeds sharing resources that counter the coherence of anti-trans narratives in bankrupt epistemic projects. B is liberatory projects, the unity of revolutionary political projects that bracket the cisgender attitude out of politics and move towards material action against transphobic violence. C was our best by conceding networks of care about how describes the affective and material collective and argument of transsexuality, the sharing of food, shelter, time, and entry through mismeasures, needle sharing programs, or through what sources taking public spaces for living proof the necessity of the after now, no presumption valid, the Oedipus, the advocate for collective resistance, survival means you should refuse to presume to a transphobic status quo means there's only against the outweighs the line by the commonly human evidence is a duck coverage is that the one you see translated to logical sense protection that the film demonstrates is tied to transparency, panic, and crack out and reject the team because their evidence defends it. Even if it's true that our generation has grown up largely unaware of nuclear weapon policy debates, there's no uniqueness for that argument when policy debate focuses on nuclear weapons for years and it has for decades. Furthermore, there's no chance that offspring of policy acts is the final straw that breaks young people out of the lack of knowledge for hundreds of debate tournaments previously failed to do so. The same phobia stuff you can group all of it. One, the examples don't prove the app is bad, even if they win examples about New York and California. The next state over has 10 more anti-trans arrival, Georgia, Texas, Florida, all prove second. The evidence names medical care returning that interpolation to medical systems of transsexuality, rely on trans medical practices that lead to the one critique of spectacularity. Jorgensen proves that being able to have the medical tools to transition does not do anything about the spectacular nature of white womanhood. Womanhood only absolves by bracketing the cisgender attitude out of politics to move towards collectivity. Third, our answer on calculate will prove that the alpha weighs 4. Its power tag to Hallenbeck doesn't make a crack for an argument, even if it did. It's not unique to the number of anti-trans bills now. Trans bills now 5. Trans people cannot engage to say even if we want to. For example, Zoe's effort getting kicked off of is a trans woman getting kicked off of a Montana Senator for when she engages in policy making. The policy making procedures proves that when trans people try to engage to say we get kicked off the floors, enemies go to the ballot pick. 1, read it through narrative. You can't know where does the after response relies on the belly of this type of argument is normal because the uneven burden of proof placed on performance based second creates an impossible burden to overcome the academy when their framework model says teams should automatically read framework against the ballot. Any other debate is apparently a chance of the academy, which means it's not unique to the third. Role of the ballot is vote for the team that's best performed method for challenging the violence of nuclear forces. The judge was after win the method is good in their office, isn't it? Unique task was while in the academy 4 permutation to the athlete. What he was a king of the academy's narrative chance 5 permutation to build 6 picks are bad kills reps testing by agree with most of the except one particular part because which makes this bad outcomes absent holistic analysis methods also turns the cost frequencies that starts direct engagement and with core parts of the one you see which were winning is good. The deterrence is had one there's no unique argument the office is a disarm which means there's no trade-off. This is an office limit proves their narrative. Coherence arguments is they will always be with the disembodied political fields ask questions about the actual one you see will win office that way. Second to give them an epistemically they still need an internal link in the skill that only doesn't match the impact AT nuclear movements not because they didn't collapse to turn to the anti-nuclear rhetoric. No reason that way only it was the apps going to merge away and will beat them on the framing page. Weapons fake no link the apps about nuclear forces distinct from language of weapons. Second there's a double term because classics proves they use the term too which is worse. Third no solve third doesn't solve because it's not in the context of the nuclear family. 4 permutation two will no mutual exclusivity trade-off point in the 1C. 5 weapons space weapons space after all causes means the opposite the linchpin. Go to 2 the cap K we're turning this spark capital, social reproduction, social capitalism, more link, turning it one state more says access, social reproduction, like organs, and with more productive domestic system, under capital sex, exploitation, the case failure to the nuclear family means it reproduces the spectacle of white womanhood because they're reading capital bonds and absent. And analytic of the gender dynamics of lectures, the K, there's a diminishing returns society having to labor for the party before collective care means exhaustion trans people run out of steam, but over before their demands of the state can never get off the ground. Once he proves uniqueness goes out because the nuclearism is part of into a sequence trans life now in the nuclear family has already socialized comrades in the party to reproduce intimate violence, forcing trans resistance and vertical and horizontal mechanisms. The trades off and collective practices of trans existentialism absolutely key now means our impact always exists in the here and now of how the strategies violence to trans people. Any of the party or demands proliferate intimate violence against trans people is the reason why external sites of energy and care are key. The Reynolds link, you can group them. The arguments about zines that are created online that do not contain a political telos are made with unpaid labor, not the app one. The political telos of the app is one that's anti-capitalist. That was above on case. Second, we don't rely on mastership. It is offered like card names that unpaid creative labor link is non-unique. Compensation for care and turn the K because compensation for care is a logic of exchange that is neoliberal austerity means that the self the impact even if they really absolve their impact arguments raise a chance that they replicate violent attachment to generic defense of blame trans people expensive for the decline of Western civilization because we didn't make demands on the state which mirrors far rhetoric obviously our state is not to make or break point of climate change which means you should only evaluate impacts that are approximate to link arguments. Finally, the alternative gets co-opted cross experience putting Che Guevara on t-shirts are literal trans panic produced by state demands of causes because turfs demand transphobia even if they're supposedly leftist turns the alternative they can't exist without the next the app has linked debate proves it results in the worst political 1% deal. All this value for trans people means you default laugh lightly once you cautious about materiality the script question of how we organize together deal. All that boils down to we should make demands but doesn't describe what organizing looks like on the ground. The app that ways especially when we perform to here finally perm use trans existentialism as a framework for anti-capitalist organizing only solves because the zine was already anti-capitalist go and permutation to the app trans existentialism catalyzes the alternative not the other way around. You should understand that what seen is a form of anti-capitalist trans agitprop because the backing of the cisgender attitude out of politics is necessary to means controlled collectivity that's good for trans people go to framework. One, we make restricting nuclear families towards a program for trans existentialism. Second, counter-prediction. The action be a method for restricting nuclear forces are often that ways where impact are predictable limits is the internal to all their impacts. There's narrative coherence is side-based. Narrative coherence means the moment we speak in the register of trances, we're not speaking about the topics that we're told. They were quote vomiting off reverse jargon. It's incoherent nonsense. Maybe if we came from more respectable segments of humanities departments, we'd have a perfectly reasonable view that should be adopted by anyone with half a brain. But trances can only be coherent in a narratively coherent framework. This isn't new. For example, in 2013, they said this is not a debate. The rules instructive debate have evolved to ensure arguments are logical. This is what I would expect from a 10-year-old means limits are informed by form and content to decide what fairness the collection look like because their model puts inclusion before meaningful participation. There's three arguments. One is that predictability is completely negotiated. That's why multiple queer or trans teams predicted nuclear family. That's how we see nuclear systems spinning the limits they set are arbitrary. Second, the one to see walls evidence says they're reading nuclear forces built on white domesticity, the protection of large sized houses, testing bikini and total amounts of white beauty undergird what is considered predictable in the first place under their model because they're unspoken parts of nuclear forces and turns argument about class and vacuum because they dogmatically assume what the interpretations of the topic should look like. Third, the impacts of abstraction debates under their model require accepting nuclear family as a stasis which creates its hand against which racialized trans populations are judged which relates to our office on the case page only. Our model calls that reproducing based on classroom nuances, discriminants, critical theory like more case basis and failure, common register trans, maladjustment or striker, whose example got on the burden of rejoinder. Model inhibits revolutionary class like members of Louisville. We can see around the show. It's not about the battle people will stop engaging there, which links competitive incentives because those incentives are key to make them engage with trans pedagogical methods. This framing issue limits explosion is terminally not unique because debate offers through the coexistence of critical and planned debate now, which means voting negative results in the worst version of their model because it makes debates more celebrated by removing critical ground, but voting out results in the best version of our model because it includes stats that have nothing to do with the topic. The exclusion of federal government, the red proves that's predictable to a community which already moving to a middle ground framework. The TVA and Swiss are both epistemically charged from that attempt to enter the app. Narratively coherent by sanitizing it for normal debate. The disarmed TVA will not solve any part of the app that they will claim it does because it benefits them to posit their models content neutral. If there's an archiving decide to both of them are models called same dead trans. Politics must go recognize the sense of black radical tradition refusing the insidious logic is spelling up in favor of a more radical politics that sees and scares also states with us only this refusal of their model can actualize the political space for all trans to West national form that's worse than 23 black trans queries what a change into politics that pushes together their group form is can offer these space recurring intimate the crossways of black and trans culture their comedy interventions but strategies building off of one another to generate for these pedagogies seeing based many ground hash out real time work work with the health participants and national alternative horizons of political engagement calling question ourselves for facing political solutions opens up political space for alternatives access to the health we learn to not spell it they see and scatter and they say what the CNC stabilize trans compatibility with paradigms of safety, security, and stasis in favor of a network that facilitates collective care, planning, proliferation, means to study together deadly conditions we live in, require methods to reverse the practices developed by black methods and coaches, and proliferating critical trajectories, critical argumentation, and parsing of the problematic system, political frames, non-black scholars grapple with our identities of black radical argumentation, non-black black trans scholars embrace our identity. It's an invitation to transform by theories and act trans political struggle. We should not accept sacrifice, we have to dream bigger by fashion new. Blueprints are into magic futures made visible, written, possible, refusal is an unending project. Finally, the Bible will not access our offense when we cannot read the Zenith negative. It's an act of intimate and intentional progression. It's something we take to tournaments into our daily lives and move through the world as a form of navigation. When they say they don't care about the quality or depth or meaning of those debates. So resolution focus. Second, if it's predictable, then it can be predictable. And third, infinite weapons small, so inevitable. We not just support an ideological orientation towards the world. We propose an action strategy to disrupt the one see internal expressions that exist under the app, and any new explanations prove they shift the goalposts to exclude the app. Let me just get water right now again.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I'm good.
Awesome. Why does the 1AC include discussions of the atomic bomb?
Yeah, so the 1AC historicizes Christine Jorgensen being put on the cover of news headlines, parallel to and actually pushing off headlines about the nuclear bomb, because the nuclear family was used to secure the nation.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm asking why the 1AC chose to talk about the atomic bomb.
Yeah, because we think that the way that the nuclear family acts in tandem with the rise of the nuclear family as a form of anti-communism and as a form of trans panic is important.
Okay, so to clarify, nothing, you just decided that the atomic bomb was important to talk about because of the
No, because, yes it is, because Jorgensen pushed headlines about the atomic bomb
Okay, understood.
off of news headlines, which
talk about
demonstrates the argument I made about spectacularity.
Yeah, no, I understand that stuff. I want to talk about topicality stuff, to talk about the reasons predictability are bad. What are they?
But alright, that's fine.
Sorry, what was the question?
What are the reasons predictability is bad?
Yeah, we think that the way that you have interpreted the topic is one that is communally negotiated, and we've disagreed with the way that you have communally negotiated the logic and dogma of predictability. We've said that the app is reading across the bias grain of the topic essentially to make an argument about what the nuclear family is a nuclear force, which we think is good and good to have debates about because of the nature of transparent
you've still grounded reasons the nuclear family in the resolution.
You're right. We have not said.
We have said that the way that you're like literally not listening to what I'm saying. We've said that the app is reading across the bias grain of the topic to make an argument about why the nuclear family is a nuclear force, and that is good because we have clearly outlined why trans panic is connected to the breaking of transsociality in the status quo.
The thing that you said is not the less predictable the topic, the better. Obviously.
No,
we have said that the way that you construct predictable limits is bad.
I'm asking for any piece of evidence that contextualizes the nuclear family, like definitionally, as a nuclear force.
The 1EC does that. The 1EC evidence contextualizes the way that the nuclear family acts as a nuclear force.
Where does it define it as the same thing? It seems to indicate that they're intertwined.
Did you like listen to the 1EC?
I did.
Right?
I'm
It made an argument about
how
how the nuclear family operates as a force to create spectacular white womanhood and domesticity that we think that we have critiqued, and we've said that trans existentialism is key to solve.
Okay, that doesn't really answer my question. I'm just asking for some even if it relates to the two, I'm asking for like some definition, but that's fine.
We think that the way that you engage in definitions is bad. That was our argument about predictable limits.
Okay, but there's still not an alternative. I want to ask about the cap K. Well, first, really quickly, case argument. Why is the region reject the team?
The cover set? Yeah. The 1AC, the film that we played, and also the discussion of nuclear forces was an argument about why duck and cover is intimately tied to trans panic.
Okay, so it's just that internal view.
Yeah, we think that you affirming duck and cover is bad because it's trans panic.
Last question, the stuff about absolves that are taught in archival practices, why is winning the debate key to that?
We've made an argument, okay, I guess we can go over this again. We've made an argument about why having debates over the app are good. Because the competitive incentives of debate in the status quo move us away towards debates that can sort of like forge trans socialities. We made arguments about the app does that. We think that that engaging in norm model trades off with those, and that we win if the method of the app is good because we've had debate over why the method of the app is good.
But why does having the debate require you winning? That's fine.
Competitive incentives.
Jeff.
12. It's T.
Are you sending out cards?
No. It's T. There are no cards. Traps are good, sweet. Anyone not ready? Awesome. Our impacts outweigh one's procedural fairness is irrefutably an impact and certainly more than just an eternal length. There's a reason Iowa expects you to flow diligently and for speech times and not inject your political proclivities into your final RFT. And there's a reason that if you egregiously diverge from those norms, Iowa would be justifiably angry in post-round. That reason is fairness. Both teams are collectively bought into it, which means it matters greatly, full stop. It's also the only impact you know you can solve. It's when a team violates fair procedure, you can quickly remedy the violation by not issuing the team the ballot. Second is clash. Policy debate is unique in certain qualities and make it exceptionally useful developing certain skills. It's driven by competition and contestation, both of which force leaders to expertly back positions they may not always agree with, guided by hours of research and prep. This rewards and subsequently builds skills that are generalizable, like cognitive flexibility and critical thinking, which can't be refined without head-to-head argumentation. They do not meet. There's no plain text. We use the USFG to restrict nuclear forces. Not having a plain text and voting each independent parameter allows shifty. We meet arguments like these because the 2AC, 1AR, and 2AR can change their advocacy post-hoc. The instance of the neg wins T, force from the 200 win T, and a disset or a K makes reputation impossible even under their model because the counter advocacy that appears competitive will get permed after the fact that counter-interpretation deletes debatability. One is reputation. Absolute or truisms like equity good or balance bad, which are uncontestable and uncontroversial, undermine the whole point of the resident, turns their impacts running the moral high ground, forces the negative to defend violent positions like racism bad as generic. Second, predictability. Our evidence outlines a vision of the topic which all debaters can adequately prepare for. It's key to generics, which is the best arguments on this topic, like deterrence and assurances that preserves limits, not limiting the agent and process for what he sees, result in the needed to prepare for hundreds of apps, which is structurally impossible. There are infinite metaphors between nuclear forces and unrelated objects like the nuclear family, and there are countless actors who can speak on these topics, which explodes limits by hundreds folds, at least in generics, and forces us into untenable positions, which answers their impact turn to limits. It's a key internal link to narrow untargeted research, which enables two well-prepared teams to debate each other. Their iteration, which expands the burden of the night by 100 times, cannot access clash, but regardless, the ballot cannot solve anything or resolve their counter-information flag defense on your flow, dropping one argument, zero is obsolvency. One is all causes our family, school, curriculum spreads, and religion impacts our subjectivities more. Second, switch side. We debate against arguments we've read already, disproving any cognitive attachment to them. Third is lying. Teams who verifiably incorrect arguments like warm and good, knowing that they're scientifically disproven. Fourth is background noise. It's logically impossible for the ballot to encourage adoption of unpredictable interpretations because each K team offers a different vision of the topic. 5, it's non-verifiable. There's zero way to measure whether someone thinks differently, and if there is, there's definitely no way to tell what the ballot caused it. 6, blocks change, not people. If we lose, we'll just upgrade our T blocks, not research your app or modify your worldview. 7, recoil. Any research that we do perform will be in response to your app, so that to the extent that our worldview can be changed, it changes in the opposite direction. This explicitly answers their impacts on case. They reference trans-archival practices like sharing resources. Liberatory practices include material action against violence, and networks of care like mutual aid of food and shelter. Ask yourself, what about voting app at the NDT makes any of these things more or less likely? They need to have an impact to the app that is connected to voting, otherwise it's presumption because fairness outweighs. This is offense. Are they tying competitive success to whether or not they do mutual aid? That seems like an unsustainable practice. What if you get on a panel and then you lose in elims, or maybe you're sick and have a sore throat and can't end up debating? Does it prohibit you from doing mutual aid? If so, then connecting the ballot to their strategies is not only ineffective, but actively bad. They say the narrative coherence is that there's none. One, talking in the register of transits does not automatically make you non-topical. We think basically the entirety of the 1AC could have been read as an advantage to a topical plan. The 1AC says, quote, any discussion of nuclear reductions that fails to theorize the intimate connection between nuclearism and the family is bad, which implies that there are discussions of nuclear reductions that we can have that both theorize the intimate connection between nuclear and the family and also actually result in nuclear reductions. But there's topical access to this. You can disarm nuclear weapons and use its original commitments and epistemological justifications as the advantage and impacts disarmament. Second, remember, T is procedural. You present an argument that negative should not have debate because it exceeds the scope of expert research. Does not claim your argument is wrong. It's the same reason we read T must be a universal NFU against an app which only does an NFU towards Russia or the Arctic or China. The 1AC might be correct, but it is outside the bounds of the rest. Third, it's also inevitable. The entire point of negation is limited at apps. For example, the CAPK places all anti-capitalist discourse and refutes 1ACs which don't focus on materiality. To use a language in their card that they cite, the CAPK might also say that apps should focus on more, quote, respectable segments of communities departments, those being Marxism, socialism, etc. They cite Matthew Adelstein's blog, Method's Bulldog, and random commenters over a decade old on YouTube to prove that these are generally representative of us and framework. If these are offensive arguments for why framework is bad, they need to connect those impacts to what we did here, not random folks who commented on YouTube videos anonymously. They say teens predict nuclear family. That's wrong. The nuclear family is one of dozens of metaphors that are tangentially related to the topic, but even if it is predictable in the sense that we can go to your wiki and see which one they see, right, there's a limit to that. Imagine a circle with 100 or 1,000 different teams reading different metaphors about nuclear forces. There's no hope for the neg, even if somehow they omnisciently know that all these teams will read the same app throughout the year. And the NDT, we have lives, friends, grades, extracurriculars, and about 16 hours of waking time. Certainly not enough to adequately prep, even though we know which app is being read. But that's not realistic. Teams will break new, which means we can't expect to prep case next for apps and assume those will actually apply, especially at the NDT. And they say it's, quote, negotiated. Perhaps that's true, but there needs to be a stasis point for that negotiation. The baseline is at least having a card which defines nuclear forces as including nuclear family. We've only read, but only we have read definitions here. That's cross-ex. They cite a 1AC card as being a definition. That's wrong. It only uses nuclear forces metaphorically in the context of meaning nuclear family. It is not a definition. They say clash in a vacuum is bad. There's nonsensical. Clash is content agnostic, which means that as long as clash happens, it's good. We agree that actively advocating for violent ideas might be bad, but they have not met that threshold. Regardless, we read several arguments about why the arguments we read don't shape the way we think. That was above. They say co-competitive incentives bad. That's wrong. They're inevitable cross-apply arguments from above that they compete to. They flow. Expect you to flow fairly. Reside without speech times, etc. And this theory of debate is empirically disproven by the last 60 years of the activity. People have always been competitive, tried their hardest to win, and basically every argument in the last 20 years that has attempted to subvert competition has been either deployed solely for competitive purposes to win debates or failed because no one has changed their mind. It is rewarding the value of competition. There's a slew of institutional factors outside of their control that gear debaters towards competition they can't solve, and that no counter-term can ever solve. For example, coaches will urge their students and parents will urge their kids to win at all costs for the glory of the school and family. Some teams and schools will even rely directly on wins to get money from donors as their only source of funding. They say women's explosion is not unique. One's relevant one or impacts about in-round fairness. Even if this one ballot can't prevent teams from reading playlist apps or non-topical apps, it can correct from the violation that occurred here. Second is competing interpretations. Judges vote for the best vision of debate. Third, proves defense. Voting for T won't stop them from reading their app, which means there's zero length to their exclusion to status because you are not excluding them from debate. Fourth, it's a sliding scale. More clash is better under their interpretation. Well-resourced schools take advantage of an unlimited topic, ranking new and unpredictable apps every round that are unchecked by top counties. Switch side and CBR, non-extractionism. This is a buzzword attached to no warrant. If anything, the exact kind of strategy refinement the Larson card talks about below. It's a more effective meta strategy to produce better advocates because we think that more clash over when they were reading this argument on the neg, or if this topical access allows to better create a strategy towards their the apps and solving their impacts. The archiving dissent is wrong. One, clash turns it. The Larson card is about planning and organizing by using debate as a meeting ground to deliberate of the best strategies. Iron sharpens iron, yes, but refinement only works when you have an adequately prepared opponent who's actually able to provide a well-researched counter-argument. Internal links above prove that isn't possible outside the bounds of the topic. Second, switch side solves. They can access their offensive form of Ks on the neg. Over time, this can mold app decision-making as teams incrementally adjust to a K they repeatedly lose to. The net weapon is their offense. You're debating against a well-prepared team who has access to terms in a familiar app, which tests and iteratively improves K more than monologues on the app. Third, debate is not unique, but specifically debate rounds aren't. If the tutor wants to go for the strategy refinement argument, they're going to need to explain why what's happening in this room is different from what happens in hallways and hotel lobbies. The NDT is fucking fantastic. It's an assembly of incredibly smart, generally well-intentioned people who very well might be able to collaborate on organizational strategies like the ones that 1AC talks about, but there's no reason that collaboration needs to happen in this round. Fourth, finally, we do not preclude the strategy sessions our card talks about. We don't think reading this 1AC was bad. In fact, we think you should have read it if you wanted to. The only thing Framework says is that we should not lose because you did. Maybe the 1AC was a good strategy. Maybe it does have some sort of positive effect on community building, but it exists as that strategy in and of itself, not because it received some sort of affirmation from a judge. The reading of the 1AC was sufficient and allowed under our framework, but voting for it is what our offense links to. Now, they say functional limits when they're unpredictable. Even if ground against your app exists, time is limited. We can't scour the internet for the thousands of possible apps in your term and cut case next second. It's concessionary. You only gave us ground because you know top county access is limited. If T did not exist, apps would quickly run to the least controversial positions. They say tournaments are a form of navigation. They don't have a reason valid as key to the navigation. There's no goalpost shifting either. We've explained above their definitions are predictable. They define resolutional words in context. If we think that we have unpredictably shifted goalposts, you should make arguments that our definitions weren't predictable, but you didn't in the 2AC, so there's no internal link to this impact, and you can't make a new link in the 1AR. 1 second. Sorry. Good, whatever.
Okay. You said apps need to have an impact that is connected to voting app.
Mhm.
How do apps under your model have an impact that is tied to the ballot?
Voting for them is fair. So like under a model where the 1AC reads a plan, and then yeah. So under a model where the 1AC reads a plan and the negative reads a disad, the impact to voting AF is not like solving nuclear war or anything. It is voting AF is a fair thing that both teams have already agreed to,
Right.
which means
How
that
is
both
that
teams.
unique to your model, though? I guess I don't understand. I don't understand the uniqueness claim there. Like, what? So the judge votes off because question mark. What does that do?
Well, both teams have agreed that the judge should vote for a topical AF that wins if it proves it's a good idea, and vote for the neg if the neg disproves that the 1AC is a good idea.
Why is that
So voting in either scenario
Why is that
preserves
good?
fairness, but there's a contention in this debate because you've disagreed
Wait.
with those norms
Why is that good, is what we're saying.
because they're fair.
Because it's fair. There's no
Yeah,
reason
and,
besides that it's fair.
and because of clash. I mean, we've cited two impacts in,
Okay, yeah.
in the 2NC.
I'll ask about that.
Yeah,
The
sure.
clash impact, you said there are unique skills of debate like critical thinking.
Yeah.
Why is critical thinking good?
There are a few things. First, it's internal link turns your model. The Larson card talks about strategy building and refutation between different arguments. But the best way to do that is, via having the ability to refute and defend certain arguments against targeted and narrow research.
Sure,
But
the
there are
Larson evidence said that was good outside the context of Spilla, right?
Sorry?
What is the Larson evidence says that's
Yeah,
good outside
well,
the context of government Spilla.
I was about to explain why critical thinking and cognitive flexibility are good generally. Is that what you want?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Both of them are terminal impacts in and of themselves. We think critical thinking and cognitive flexibility are unique skills that students should be able to have to be able to act in the world, do good things in the world, and be better thinkers and intellectuals.
Okay, what is cognitive flexibility?
Yeah, so it's sort of like a dogmatism impact. We think that cognitive flexibility enabled by switch side and refutation of certain arguments allows debaters to challenge beliefs that they may have had already.
Okay,
The
why is
reason that
cognitive
isn't
flexibility
unique to our model? Yeah, so under the 1AC's model, teams can read not everything that exists on the internet, but everything that they can connect somehow to nuclear forces via metaphor. There's too much on the internet that exists for the neg to be able to refute that.
I'm
what that
confused
is-
as to what that has to do with cognitive
No,
flexibility.
I'm getting there. So if the neg is able to effectively refute and prepare against AFs that they know, then they're able to contest 1ACs, contest ideas that they may not have had the ability to already.
Why is
But if the
contestation
1AC,
uniquely good to cognitive flexibility?
because it allows debaters to research ideas they might not be familiar with already, and once the 1AC reads an argument,
Ideas they might not be, I'm writing this down.
Yeah,
Familiar
and-
with already.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
So when the 1AC forwards something like a monologue that the neg does not have any responses
What's
to,
a monologue?
something that the neg does not have responses to. Dialogic contestation being those where there are two sides who are well prepared arguing against each other, monologue being one where the 1AC forwards an idea that the neg does not have the ability to contest.
Okay,
We think that's good because it enables the app to challenge their own ideas and for the neg to challenge those themselves.
that's good, thank you.
What did I say? The order while we wait is case, the weapons pick, the ballot pick, the deterrence dissent, and then tap.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
Could you give that one more time?
Yeah, absolutely, sorry. Case, weapons pick, ballot pick, deterrence to sad, the captain. Is anybody not ready? Cool. Yeah, I saw it, thanks. Duck and cover stuff from case. It's not offense one. We haven't definitive. The 1NC card is descriptive of those having happened during the Cold War. Things that people need to be educated about nuclear policy to resist weapons, not that it result in more duck and cover in the future. Second, no internal link. None of their evidence has rhetorical defenses of it or intrinsically violent. Three, non-resolution voting issues are bad. They incentivize theory of proliferation that trades off with critical debating and turns all of their offense. It is bad for education in class. Fourth, not a voting issue. We're not extending the card that solves. Args about taping bad does not take out the alt. It overcomes capitalist rationale for transphobic and status quo, but they just asserted there's still intertrans violence. Our episodes are moving in the right direction. Proven by New York and San Francisco passing healthcare policies, which chooses to have inherency, not impacting medicine that's patronizing for transit group who rely on the state for healthcare like me. Well, at weapons pick, not going for it, reject the argument on the team, concede part in a link, not a double term, or concede that there's no way to solve. And also, they said nuclear weapons don't link to them to links to us both at worst. They did the damage first, somebody else would be not better. Ballot pick, not concede the not going for it, no offense here, theories, reject the argument that the team that turns this out, not going for it, framework and cap outweigh until the dissent, there's no offense here, the K. The app is not radical, but reinvested in the system due to failure. Capitalism bad outweighs in terms of impact. One, extinction or warming causes oceanification, mass migration, sea level rise, and heat stress, culminating in planetary structural increasing violence in the short term. That comes first. Its objectives and any other impact counts evolved in genocide for one life is furthers over other. Second term's case, they did not contest the theory of capitalism with the impact, which means we don't have to go for the extinction impact. This is the presumption argument. If they don't account for capital, they can't solve their strategy fails. Two reasons: A, security regime, the K turns in the origins of militarization, expropriation, which requires ability technological means to surveil, colonize, and transform entire regions, zones of sacrifice. That's all of the that's all the raw materials of the one is B nuclear family. Capital creates a barrier to rejection family through discipline, through rejecting homosexual norms, heterosexual norms, and denying access to labor markets. Gonzalez 23. Those who reject heterosexual roles spread lives expelled from labor force, equalize ecological system, marriage, reputation, requires for proliferating of race, concept of property, sovereignty, were imposed, those who don't remove labor, race, climate change. Every state of fossil fuel bursts around us were affected by oil drilling, habits, petrochemicals, was susceptible, overwhelming non-white, exposed to hurricanes, floods, mountain rises, double vulnerable through colonialism, illegal economic performance, through the lending policies, trade and investment agreements, accessibility, poverty, reduced access to healthcare, education, minimum informal sector, unable to survive. Those who cross military borders were demoralized by authoritarian population who expelled left to die. The nuclear family emerged as a result of capitalism. Nickerson 23. Nuclear family emerged with the capitalism. Four capitalist properties collected owned this with family church capitalism. Private ownership and centration of the family. Modernized nuclear family guaranteed high bill capacity and property benefit. The bourgeoisie K is a prior question of link arguments through the app cannot solve their impacts are infinite. That's the case. 2C1 is a scheme more link turn. It's not. To reclass claim that the above overview internal link turned. The R links massively outweighs. They have no reason spectacularizing transness deconstructs capital. This is the argument we critique with impacting their aversion, mass left and organizing statement follows the lens of austerity design. Zine production is a form of austerity that individualizes the responsibility of personal health and well-being onto queer subjects. This is particularly proven through the app, despite the recognition of macro-political forms of anti-trans violence. Pointed on the one is the evidence such as countless anti-trans bills being introduced. The structural medical deficiencies. The app asks what the internal willpower can trans people muster to move their way out of violence. This creates a false correlation to our ability to aesthetically produce and the ability to prevail the brunt of capitalism, which forces people to work countless hours, ration food, and endlessly negotiate with insurance providers about healthcare. This is offense. They create hyper-resilient trans subjects who are told that they must individually label themselves out of violence because, quote, mass left and organizing will erase their violence, which is psychologically violent and individualistic. Instead, the app invests in all its energy coping with the capitalism, but negative establishment the party to abolish capitalism in the first place. 2AC2 is diminishing returns. This is the exact logic we've indicted as being intrinsic to the app. They put the burden of resistance on trans folk, but it should be on the state, which the app resolves through. With the app resolves, the movement demands nothing of members which solves for impacting their performance. Scenes are told communicative capitalism. Reynolds explicitly says they replicate a white neoliberal ideology by confusing self-representation, transgressive politics with political struggle. Iowa's search for authenticity is coping strategy that produces insular ideology that never gets broadly disseminated. The Holland evidence reproduces every single trope and impact term describes trans archive as, quote, obscured by dominant frameworks. It describes the corpus of trans terminology as completely anarchic from the classical cisgender perspective because of its blending of poetry, literature, theater, photography, and scenes, unquote. This reduces trans's performativity and distracts from the material inputs required from survival in the first place. It shouldn't surprise you because scene culture is constrained by dominant ideology inevitably due to the history of whiteness. White creative individuals disseminate the scenes among themselves as coping strategy filled with vocabulary like trans, existentialism, or ethic utility, which broadly ignoring the set of material inequalities directly impacting the survival of people of color. Political telos is anti-capitalism, so their first answer. It's not all of our link arguments through their historically and make materially reinvest in the regime. They say it's not input labor. Reynolds is not specific to unpaid labor, even though that is an external argument. Instead, it's operating under dominant regime, which I explained above. That turns all their solidarity arguments. Holland evidence as, quote, what trans people share is a unique situation, project responsibility, unquote, which obscures the way racial capitalism creates enormously varied situation responsibilities for queer people of color, migrant workers, or queer folks living in zones of sacrifice. They result in an echo chamber that turns their political information into ideology instead of politics. That proves anything short of the out fails. Or criticism stops short of prescribing actionable solutions that is capitalist, individual move because it ignores the role of the individual plays in the broader structure. Collectivism is key, otherwise any popular movement will fail. The 2AC3's proximate causes only, if you only buy proximate causes but negative presumption, because one debate can't resolve all their impacts, which I know causes all that way, the alternative is good, which I'll do below. 2AC4 is that 1% risk of transplant into vote app. 1, they're worse, that was explained on the link above. 2, they can't solve because they have no explanation for how you solve material lines happening now. 3, there's no warrant for it, which you default to explanation of the link turn. 2AC5 is no alt script tells you here the alternative is simple social solidarity and work within institutions to form material change. That means A, forwarding ethic, which there's new ecological, social, political, etc. forms of egalitarianism that reorients how we approach relations because recognizing the need to provide care for other people expands the conception of we and bonds of solidarity, which resolves transphobia in the long term, which is the Harvey evidence. 2, B, expressing the solidarity through material actions like implementing economic and social floor for people to fall back on, reintroducing progressive and new forms of corporate income taxation, etc. That's Harvey. The state is key. 2AC6 is a permutation. The permutation is the worst of both worlds. A, no net benefit. The alt solves the case, which means the 1% risk of a link is sufficient for you to reject the perm. B, the links impact from the app of isolating the incorporation of affect and austerity necessarily trades off material resistance, and it's bad. C is severing. The entire 1 is the text we picked out of the links explained elsewhere. The perm necessary sever, which is bad for critical education. D, it's theoretically illegitimate. A perm must have the text defending methods they defend, otherwise it's impossible to garner competitions. So we don't know what the app will defend until the tune are. It's a reason to reject the team and the perm because they destroys critical education. E, perms need text when two critical arguments are competing. It's necessary to understand the nuance between different theories. The app needs to describe what parts of the 1AC they're computing, what the word looks like. The alternative is impossible to debate. Destroys education. F is internal quantities that claim solvency off the debate do not get to permute. Strategies external from that. The app should have to defend its scale of reform. The chosen to defend this debate as a site of resistance. The negative should get to critique keep that. The alternative destroys critical planning and education, so the starting points are crucial to effective strategy. Saying 267 is prone to the app. It's not an argument. Things for the app is bad, and we've argued why the alt is good. Austerity's national disavow even if we don't go with the alternative because it proves they can't solve and they just move the burden onto trans people, which is bad.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes. That's alright. 339.
Travis, we stopped at 339. Case. Count. Anyone else? Okay, Travis, you good? 1 second. Let me unmute so I can hear what you're saying. Sorry, what's up?
I just need about 15
Okay,
seconds.
take your time. Let me know when you're ready.
Alright, I am good whenever everybody else is.
Okay. Unless somebody stops me in a minute, sorry.
Food affirmative for a program of trans-existentialism that comes together around the kitchen table to break from the nuclear families, the site of social reproduction, proliferate networks that carry outside of it. Your ballot rejects their notions of content neutral clash and builds engagement of the racialized gender structure that they force you to see as inevitable, mundane, and neutral. We are winning with their model debate of racist transphobic violence, not just through its content, but also through selective inclusion, through things like the TVA and Switchside, links back to our conceded impacts of spectacularity and domesticity, because it mirrors how Jorgensen's inclusion in the nuclear family produced external racialized violence through abjection of Delisa, Marta, and Laverne, and produced internal violence herself, because measuring progress through inclusion means we're only ever defined in opposition to that which we are never close enough to. Duck and cover is an independent venue. She's saying it's good as a reason to reject the team reps are not conditional. Either they were not listening to the 1AC, in which case you should vote negative to force them to engage, and or they have defended that duck and cover is good. But we are winning. That is a form of narrative coherence that excuses anti-trans violence, because it shores up the bounds of the nation in ways that produce violence. That precedes T and means that even if we don't win it, then you still voted for affirmative. A couple more things I have to clean up. Moving in the right direction is not a reason why engaging the state is good, that we are winning. A reason why it's not possible. That's a drop zone for example, about how when we try to engage the state, we're kicked out, which also is conceded offense against the alternative. That means that the permutation should work, because the alt is to engage the state. Our arguments are not the medicalization about viewing trans progress through a frame of purely medicalization is violent, because it reproduces the impacts of spectacular domesticity that I explained in the overview. Go to Cap social reproduction theory, dropped and answers the K, because Cap is instituted by the nuclear family. It was explained by the practice of transition makes so many trans people coming to teach us so that we can change something about our world, and prove that internal shifts precede materiality. With straight terms, the link, it demonstrates that we've answered the root cause. When we did answer the argument about capitalism, it also means that the alt can't solve our impacts, but we can solve we can solve their zines. They're good in misdistinction in the 2AC, but the 2AC zines do not individualize, but because the 1AC zine practice is a standard attitude out of politics that solves the impact to the language of the proliferation of racial capitalism, and then we can explain the internal violence that happens within trans communities through a narrative of through forms of narrative coherence and object, black and brown trans people, which means that if also there is independent offense on framework here, because they say that that we are talking about internal willpower that asks trans people to solve the right, that that's a dissent of their framework, not ours, and only we can solve. Now conceded role of the ballot on the ballot pick means the performance. You should evaluate the performance of our method against theirs. Means emancipate to not come before the applicant. It's not proximate to things that matter here. And now bracketing this attitude is key to solve for care. It just solves. Either it solves or there's no trade-off. And the alternative literally works on the level of this bit, because they say it's about reorienting how we think, which means it links to them, which justifies this permutation uniquely and answers all of the permutation warrants. It's not a reason to reject the team because it competes in this round, or we solve it. Framework. Extend the counter-information. The should be a method for restricting nuclear forces. No risk of an impact turn to the act, because the internal link can only be resolved by our model, even and if they win a risk of their impact. Our impact turns prove that they can neither access nor turn our offense, because the model that investments in sort of archival practices of debate can resolve our offense. Ultimately, the archive and decide the topic because it was mishandled. The 2NC relies on claims like all of the internal links prove that there's no clash under the model. It's impossible. What the fuck do you think our model looks like now? How are KVK debates adjudicated? This is a move to narrative coherence that renders trans participation in debate unmeaningful and not worthy of being considered in the first place and retroactively writes those things out of debate, even when those debates are happening and exist in the status quo. They can win. The trans people might read a plan under their interpret that lacks the things that Bo says make trans participation in debate meaningful, which is the legacy of critical debate that builds on the Louisville Project. It sets predictable points of clash for competitive link ground that results all their clash in fairness claims, and more importantly, instantiates a model where we iterate over questions of ethics, organizing, coalition building, and tactics, which is a dropped warrant that debate does shape subjectivity. It is absurd to say that it doesn't, because all of the time that we spend here is or orients how we move about the world. And if it's not true, if it's not true for them, then there's no reason to vote for their framework, because we are winning a new discussion about why our model is meaningful for us. It retools debates competitive incentives to generate their and the engagement with trans archival reading practice that compounds their debts with radical tradition, refuses to sacrifice certain segments of our population's via reformism. Remember all of their but why would the ballot be key to vote out is a false promise, because when Louisville gave up the ballot, teams stopped engaging with them, which means that they perform when they say that everybody who reads KF does it solely to win that match. Narrative compares onto us and assumes that we said competition is non-existent. We said negation is fucking good and you should do it. They instead asked our uncontestable no. Our model looks like round one of Long Beach, where we naked against James Madison. They read an app about the gender dynamics of nuclear violence and the material impacts the figure of white women has on nuclear colonial projects. We read a negative strategy about why the theorization of gender as it relates to trans relations of gender needed to be rethought. Or round three of Long Beach, we were asked against Dartmouth. We read a zine, and Dartmouth read a cave phenomenology that challenged theorization of the nuclear family by indicting the functioning of our method. It all demonstrates that their shit is not unique, and they're fucking lying about these debates being unfair or impossible, because they are impossible. Now there's no unrelated. There are arguments that we would just draw internal links between nuclear forces and put unrelated actors prove they can't access our office because they apply narrative coherence to our model. It also proves that the TVA cannot solve our impacts because they don't take the nuclear family seriously. And we have debate shape subjectivity debate, rhetorical sleight of hand. Obviously, it's true the debate has the effects on our lives our lives. Bo proves 2NC Crossings also does. Let them talk about why their model is great for 3 minutes. Not once they say how they make trans is meaningful. Now we don't need to disprove every word here because we won contextual claims about debates, archival practice, and commitment to trans. As TVA by and large answered above. It's kind of narrative coherence that shifts the goalposts. If we read a context with this, they fail to engage nor reaching on us anyway. Disarm can't resolve the nuclear families and nuclear force, and the 2NC says it's just tangentially related. It also answers switch side because it means they don't take it seriously when it's on the negative as a response to the affirmative. The ballot cannot correct unfairness and send them back to the drawing board. Big schools are the status quo, worse under their model because they go unchecked. They've assumed our model is unchecked. That projects a narrative coherence that misinterpolates our intentions after the fact. It means that trans is still only ever defined by cis standards of interpolation, which means that all the slippages they've had in this debate about why debate does not shape sensitivity, etc. all means that it's key to vote affirmative to forcing to research ideas they might be unfamiliar with, which solves.
811. I'm leaving. Oh, Jesus. T case. Or TK case. Oh yeah, Travis' TK case. Alright, anyone not ready? Cool. It's going to be an easy night out. There are a plethora of conceded arguments, each of which can be an independent voting issue that you can check out on. One, the explanation of the fairness and clash impacts were dropped in simple offense defense. We have some defense, their model, they have no defense to ours. Second, they've conceded 2 arguments about recoil that I is forced to repeat the possession that applicable generics will be able to be read broadly or violent, like racism good or trans violence good or suffering bad or suffering good. These turn their model, the Twitter should not continue answers hold the line because, as you know, there's no 3 and R. Third, there's the version of the vowel peg that was dropped. You don't think reading this 1AC was bad. In fact, you think you should have read it if you wanted to. The only thing that framework says that we shouldn't lose because you did. Maybe the 1AC was a good strategy, has some sort of positive effect on community building, etc. Those all explain to the 2 and C, but that it exists as that strategy in and of itself. And if the reading of the 1AC was good, then it is good in and of itself intrinsically, not because it received some sort of affirmation from a judge. So the 4th independent voting issue was dropped, not having a plan tax and voting issue was applied. Just independent framework and a reason to reject the team allows shifting arguments like those in the 2AC because the 2AC 1AR and 2AR can change their advocacy post hoc with the intent of the neg wins T, which forces the 2AR win T, and a counter advocacy or a dissad that makes reputation impossible even under their model because counter advocacy that appears competitive in the first place will get permed after the fact. Now, 2 impacts framework issues independent utility if you win a presumption defense. You can quickly check out on fairness since you know it's the only impact value can solve. But if you lose their defense in the case, you can still quickly vote and clash several internal interns in the case that only clash can operationalize, specifically the meta strategy building that Larson Court talks about is only possible in a world where 2 teams are well prepared to refine their structured strategies, but not one where the neg has nothing to say. Now the impact's proper. 1, fairness is an external argument that hinges on collective assent, or they have not answered the game breaks without fairness. They've spread through blocks and have dropped arguments because ultimately Iowa wants to win. They rely on judges to fairly flow and validate the debate. If you dropped an impact to the app and you didn't consider it and you followed the post round all in the name of fairness. We'll say that good things matter, that could be true, but none are more important than fairness, and none can be solved by the ballot, especially because it's a prerequisite to solving your impacts in the first place. Second is clash policy debates unparalleled, marked by its distinct characteristics that render it supremely effective reporting a specific set of skills. At its core, it thrives on the dynamics of competition and vigorous dispute, compelling debaters to marshal robust support for positions they may not agree with, all underpinned by a sense of research and meticulous preparation. This rigorous process is not merely a reward, it demands the cultivation of skills that are universally applicable, like cognitive flexibility and capacity for critical thinking. These are skills that cannot be developed in isolation or through passive learning. They necessitate direct adversarial engagement. It's in the crucible of head-to-head argumentation that these skills are not just practiced, but are forged and refined. Setting policy debate apart is a singularly potent educational tool that none of their impacts have specific, unique awards for that debate is key for. This role of the ballot argument at the top, crossfire with the ballot pick, it's self-serving, arbitrary, and unfair. The judge should vote for whichever team that have been debating. The 2 cannot blow it up. Now the counter all extended predictability. It's an instant neg ballot because they've not counter-defined our words. Our evidence outlines a vision of the topic which all debaters can adequately prepare for. It's key to generics, which are the best arguments of this topic, like assurance and assurance that the court's counterplan, which are all drop their infinite metaphors between nuclear forces and the nuclear family, etc. There are countless actors who can speak on this topic, which are job. It's an independent reason why, even if there are multiple metaphors for nuclear forces, which you should be able to justify, those should all happen within the context of the USFG creating action, because those provide a stasis point for us to garner at least 2 generics off of. They say this is homogenizing and bad. They'll be answered below. It's a key internal scenario and targeted research enables 2 well-paired teams to debate each other, which is good as per above. Now, they said if the impacts of case coming around the kitchen tables in the form of spectacularization, messaging, there are also references back to archival practices, for example, resource sharing, etc. To vote after, you're going to have to, when you read it, to resolve the question, what about voting for the advocacy makes any of these things more or less likely? No, that voting neg resolves a procedural violence and fairness violation, and that it endorses model class with several external impacts. When vote app, you need to reciprocally know that doing so actually does something, but there's no answer in the 1AR to the question. What about voting app in the first round of NDT makes any of their strategies more likely, or what about voting neg makes them less likely? It's also cited as offense in the 2NC that's not answered, tying competitive success to whether they do mutual aid is unsustainable. Maybe you just messed up flowing for like 10 seconds for it to write down a crucial argument. Maybe your coach was supposed to cut a card for you, but forgot. Maybe you didn't have coffee this morning, so didn't cut the last card to a C. Do any of these things prohibit you from doing mutual aid if so then connecting the ballot to their strategy is not only ineffective but actively bad? The reference reference Louisville as an example. This is proof for us that Louisville's project could have had real lasting effects. It sure has done so outside of debate. We'll all be out of here in a few years. So the benefits of debate should linger longer than however long labeling get ballots. If the Louisville project fails once there were not competitive incentives afterward, what does that mean for small-scale projects like yours that are not as popularized? It means they'll fail as well. Proves we need clash and meta strategies to create lasting change and make arguments about KVK debate. They dropped that it's concessionary ground. K teams only provide ground because they know topicality access is limited. T do not exist after quickly run at least controversial positions, but it's not a real argument. They say 2 rounds as anecdotes for why KVK debate works. It's insufficient proof that K debates is effective generally. It's also not about what has happened already. It's what your YouTube justifies. In this term, it justifies a plethora of metaphors about things that are related to nuclear forces. They say it's exclusionary, drop that it's inevitable. The entire point of negation limit out affirmatives. For example, the CapK polices all anti-capitalist discourse and repeat 20 which don't focus on materiality. It's loose language in the Treaty C card, which they cited in 1 AR. The CapK might also say that after focus on more quote respectable segments of community departments. Now the subjectivity debate, you should not be leaning with line by line. Both were dropped. They dropped that 2 and C2 and 2 and C3. Switch side line. Both prove that we have no cognitive attachment to the arguments to read even over time. You might read it, and if you have one round of turn around and negate the exact same app the next round. 2 and C6 that blocks change and recoil to estimators. We are traded trade our losses as technical errors which can be fixed with drills and upgrades to our blocks because it's almost impossible to cut case next every plainless app on the topic. Next seems to lose one set just get better framework. Also a recoil argument which was cited above. We're forced to negate the RAP. The only research that we do, even if we do something outside of just upgrading our framework blocks, is doing research against their app, which forces us into generics that must be cross-applied across the broad swath of apps that are topical under their interpretation. Now, the voting issue is insufficient to obviate T when they dropped all the 1 hour's warrants. One, we did not defend, duck, and cover. The 1 T evidence is simply descriptive of their existence during drills during the Cold War. This proven by 1 T cross-sex from Jam. Sam directly said that when asked about duck and cover, the only thing the card defended was that people should learn about nuclear politics in order to afford restraint. Second, it's not a voting issue. The 1 hour asserts that reps should not be conditional without a warrant. Don't let them add one later. Not going for it definitely solves. Third, independently, they can see that non-resolutional voting issues should be rejected. It's not applicable to the plain text voting issue because it's about resolution that after board of resolutional plain text. The K conceded it's conditional. There's no offense that cross applies to framework. If anything, framework outweighs.
We have 339. Okay, we're gonna have to that back. Is everyone good? Okay. And then Travis, are you good? Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm fixing all this in everything. Okay. Vote out from the archiving decides its impact to unpredictable limits as the internally to all of Harvard's impacts of fairness clash because they have dogmatically negotiated in advance of this debate what interpretations of the topic could look like that. Argument about communal negotiation is dropped in the 2-hour. Here's the reason we're winning. There's no TV or switch right debate in the 2-hour, which is game over because it proves our Affirmative model is not compatible with theirs, which magnifies our 1% risk argument that 1% the risk of model is bad news to vote out because we made an argument about how negotiation under our model forwards lines of sociality that are critical in a moment where anti-trans violence is accelerating. Every 2-hour argument relies on the assumption that a vertical model of political engagement is neutral and equally predictable, which you should come back to when you evaluate the flow because we have one claim about why debates under our model key to access the intended politics that both sides are integral to black and trans debate now. Black and trans debate now, they say vote alpha, they say vote negative on fairness, but vote says the question of access conditions of inclusion posed by limits and clash of fairness are necropolitical because they require inclusion into dominant political frames that require we disavour desecrates the world that made violence possible in the first place, drop framing issue that even if they win that trans people can be included under their model, they have not won that inclusion is meaningful, i.e. makes trans meaningful in its conclusion, though. One argument about joints and violent inclusivity in the case may proves that from people literally writing articles with sections complaining about me being in outruns of the NDT to the historical belligerent disavowal of black debaters from 2013 and 2017 to 2023. There was a persistent nature to the disavowal located to be proven through the Madison or Fishback or Emporia, and yet the response is always that clash of fairness come first. That is endemic to their model of debate because this foils the Bow article, the legacy of our model of debate versus the legacy of theirs. That means that our spectacularity impact outweighs any risk of fairness and clash loss because their model is positioned as content neutral while revolutionary black and trans politics are the spectacular outside that we can observe but not engage here is how you are weighing impacts in identity model debate. It means that you should resist the impulse to presume that their version of resolution focus is already an established good. They say that you cannot weigh procedural impacts against structural ones or the case page, but that flows out because we're winning a prior question about how an archivist database content predetermines procedural questions of fair debates in the first place. That was the argument about negotiation above. Even if they win a minimal impact clash, we still win the debate because any benefits to our model. They don't access our reasons why you should prefer radical trans politics, even if it is procedurally unfair, which are independently impact trans experiments that only our model can solve more impact work there, but we're winning the project. The app is good, archaic, nuclear domesticity, undergirds US empire, which means only the app is able to provide a counter archive to lay nuclear violence as co-constitution to both the interpersonal and material dimensions of nuclear violence will extend trans archive practices and networks of care. As examples of how the app asks us what we can do with our time and energy when we are gathered around the table, the examples from new disorder and mass prove this as they are both participatory movements and active spaces of trans existential ultimate liberatory projects, the way that new disorder takes up public spaces and utilizes them as places for trans world making it parties that distribute hormones self-defense, so it's defense applies life-saving care in the face of objection proof that the app solves and that lines of sociality are key to solve our impact, which voting app is the only way to do that because voting enacts a model of debate that is violent. Go to the framework page proper now, the top of the offense we're winning. We outweigh on the counter-interpretation. The app should defend a method for restricting nuclear forces, carrying out debates about the nuclear family erase the most important parts of the topic, which means we're winning the limits are a bad model given they will always limit debates about the uniqueness of anti-trans violence because they do not make trans as meaningful in the participation of their model. It answers the link turn or we solve arguments and it solves their impacts and not the other way around. The 2-hour drops argument that predictability to negotiated media or content is predictable to people who have a relationship to nuclear forces, not capture their model of debate. Really, nuclear family proves our impact term because that negotiation they have disavows the legacy of debates that both described, but the competition under our model solves all of their impacts on all of their impacts, answers their top level quote-unquote concessions, offense, sequence paradigm is you are voting affirmative because the 2-hour is fucking generic on the question of our offense and what it means to engage in our model versus their model. The fairness and clash argument defense, yes we do. Our interpretations about nuclear forces, even Truancy Crosses concedes that teams cannot read anything, just arguments about interpretations of what nuclear forces mean. The second argument about recoil is not unique to our model. Racism good is not something that people uniquely read under our model through, and that our model solves it through iteration of strategies that the Bow have been talking about, but not iteration of strategies that their model. The ballot pick argument is horrible. They dropped the Louisville argument, conceded the Louisville when they conceded rounds, people didn't engage anyways, which both proves that the ballot pick makes no sense. We have terminal defense to it, but also that our model is key because the in-round practices shape the things that we do outside of round. The 4 there's no plan argument. 4 was the no plan argument. You should reject it. Trying 4 with the no plan argument, there is no unique argument about why our model is more shifty than theirs because we're winning that engagement under our model is good, but they also didn't win a link to it because the money seems clear that we endorse trans existentialism and that what that meant including trans archival practices and networks of care, which means there's no impact to the argument anyways. Now the impact may be proper. I'll win that we outweigh fairness and clash because the archiving set turns in. For example, the argument about larceny and why they're trying strategies key to iteratively test doesn't capture the words of the Larson evidence because Larson is explicitly critiquing spill up and same-based engagement. The fact that they think that type of engagement is the same type of engagement that their model produces proves our argument because they are indebted to a model for me that tells us that there is no outside to their model, which means there's only must be outweighed the fairness and clash of proper where there's no impact arguments to negation their assumption that that negation under our model is impossible is born of a dogmatic inherent debate tradition that does not see chaos as real counter arguments in the first place, though says negation is externally generated by competitive incentives to make me a tool to hash out disagreements in real-time organizing work proves to me internally with while it spans and participates in building above and better refuses logics of filling out to give our energies back to the state that produce balance and instead fortifies the communities, which means only all models tells the argument about lines of sociality. It's a sociality debate. The fairness defense makes no sense. You should even listen to our speeches. We made a specific argument about the limits that your model does imply it's bad, which means I don't need to win the fucking speech. Times are bad in order to win that our office comes first because it's about the content that your model produces versus the content that our model produces. Switch on TVA, we're not in the switch on TVA, we're not the two winner, but we have defense for that anyway. For example, for example, you should understand the conception of that nobody has included the worst switch side of someone so cover my basis with that. Truancy when I say things like actually use anyone for that proves they would never engage even if you run the negative because we have sources, nuclear force, and nuclear families constitutive, which means they've reinterpreted our arguments with their appearance that went to illegible proofs no switch side of debates. Under our model exists empirically or the example of JMU and the argument prove there's only with that our model accesses the lines of sociality that they don't.
Good debate.
Good debate.